Hi guys, Michael Wright here from Michael Wright Photography. I'm here with Megan from TaylorMade Events. She's an event planner. I thought it would be good to have her on because I meet with so many couples that don't have a planner, and I really feel like it would be a great benefit for them to have one. So we're here today to just kind of briefly go over, the benefits of having one and demystify it and take away some of the myths that people have about hiring a planner.
Okay.
So tell me a little bit about you and what you do.
Okay, well, like he said, I'm with TaylorMade Events. It's an event planning company. We specialize in weddings, but we also do other events such as parties, social events, and corporate events. We're located in Wellington, Florida.
Okay, and so a lot of times I'll meet with people and they clearly could use the help of a planner, but one of the big stigmas out there is, I don't want to pay somebody $10,000 to do something I could do myself.
Yes.
So let's briefly go over costs. Now, not necessarily for your company, but in general, what are some of the services that you provide, and what are some of the price ranges that the average person would expect to pay?
Okay, well, most of the time people think that event planners are like thousands of dollars because they think about us planning the event from start to finish. But most planners have what's called a day of package, which is a little bit cheaper. It can start around $1,000 and go up. The high end, you are looking at probably $3,000, but let's just say a general range. Wedding planning would start at about $1,000 and then go up from there.
Okay. Now, to a lot of people out there, they say, look, we're already under budget. We're already over budget. An extra $1,000 to have somebody there, that's a lot of money. But to me, it really is a great benefit because it takes away so many different things from them. Let's just kind of talk about some of the things that you would do on the day of or in advance if you're planning the full wedding or event.
Okay, well, the biggest thing is the schedule of events, which is the timeline. And as a bride, maid of honor, or bridesmaid, groomsman, so on and so forth, you can effectively get ready for your wedding and be there to make sure everything is done on time. And then, yeah.
Well, and then the other thing too is, the day's stressful enough without you having to run around and make sure that everyone is doing exactly what they're supposed to do.
Correct.
And you and I have done enough weddings or events to know that sometimes things go wrong, and you don't want to be freaking out thinking, I got to do this and that, when the reality is you should be drinking mimosas, getting your makeup done, instead of having to worry about coordinating everything with everyone else.
Yes, because they're so much more emotionally attached to the event because it's for them. So if something small does happen, they will just focus on that and not enjoy their day.
Yeah.
So, in addition to the timeline, we're just there to put out fires, like you just, pointed out. We put out fires. We're there from start to finish. You don't have to worry about when you're going to be doing your first dance. Where's your mom and dad so they can do the toast? You don't have to worry about vendors breaking down at the end of the day. We handle all of that, just like as well as any other event planner should.
Especially, I think it's a really good benefit for some of the type A personalities out there, because I've had some brides that are very detail oriented and they want to make sure everything is perfect. But the reality is, it's hard for me to take pictures of them while they're, putting together, the candy table, or they're doing their own flowers, or just whatever detail that they're super concerned about. If they have a team and they're assigned to it, then that's just something that is just less stress for them.
Yeah. We try to tell our brides to give us full control, but when you're dealing with someone that has type A personality, it's hard. So what we typically do is once like that candy table is complete or their sweetheart table is complete, we'll take a quick picture of it and text it to them, and they can see it. And they're put at ease to know that, okay, it came out the way we wanted it to.
Another added benefit is that, you can go to battle on their behalf. I mean, if there's a vendor that they've hired, I've had weddings where the florist showed up and it was a total, it was not what the bride ordered, or maybe there was table linens that were a different color. Rather than them having to, confront this vendor and say, hey, this isn't what we ordered, this isn't what is in the contract. You and your team can deal with it, and the bride can enjoy their day knowing that you're going to be on it and not have to deal with that. I guess there's also other situations where maybe there's a limo driver or someone that needs to be paid, and you can pass out the checks in that sense, or whatever else it may be that you need to do so that you don't have to have the bride or her family involved?
Yes, typically with day of packages, the event planner would take over a month or maybe a week prior to. So we collect all of the payments during rehearsal.
Okay.
So when we're there to help with the rehearsal and we're doing the processional and whatnot, that's when we have envelopes ready and then collect all the checks and we hand them out as vendors arrive.
Okay. Let's talk about full-on planning for a minute, because in addition to doing the day of, you also, do full event planning from the beginning. I could come to you and say, look, our budget's 30 grand. We need to have a wedding somewhere in Palm Beach or Fort Lauderdale. We want to have it at a country club. Go.
Okay.
And so the good thing about that is a lot of times people will say, well, I'm spending money up front, but you may actually help them save money or find ways for them to stretch their budget and get a little bit more than what they expected.
Yes. Because we're familiar with different vendors, we can kind of have an idea of what they want, and we can select the correct vendor for them or try to steer them to the correct vendor, or say, I can give you this complete vision, but let's cut back on one particular item and we can achieve the same thing.
Right.
So.
Yeah, because within any budget, there may be 10 things that you need to take care of, but there may be one or two things that are a little bit more important to the bride. For me, for example, I have some brides that obviously care a lot about photography, so they'll come to me and they'll make it, a big sticking point that maybe they spend a little bit more in photography and a little bit less in another area. Or, you may have a bride that's really into florals and wants to have the reception, look like an enchanted forest or something. And in order to accomplish that within the budget, you may need to cut back someplace else.
Yeah, so let's just touch on an enchanted forest, for example. Lighting does so much. So if they wanted that and they had a $30,000 budget, we can incorporate a lot of lighting and opt for maybe a manzanita tree centerpiece instead of having actual, trees around the venue. That's another way to cut back on it.
And see, to me, that's a real benefit, having someone that's been there, has done so many different weddings and events that can say, hey, what I've seen or what we've done in the past is ... And so rather than spending $5,000 on that, you may end up spending $3,000, in which case you can allot that other $2,000 to something else.
Yes.
The other thing to me that really helps is it takes away a lot of stress between the actual couple. Because I know myself from getting married, my wife and I, we would go back and forth about, what do you think of this? I think that. How much is this? This and that, blah, 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 versus having someone there to help guide you through the planning process really alleviates the stress of having to go back and forth, because, it really is stressful planning a wedding.
Yes. And what brides as well as grooms, because sometimes we have grooms that are very involved, you have to realize that there's a couple of things that are much more important to spend your money on than others. Like the big ticket items would have to be your food, your photography, and then your venue. You don't necessarily have to put all your money into your venue, but those three items are very important. And then also, it's also important to get a wedding planner. As you know now, it's not like, really expensive. It's affordable. And there's ways that we can cut back if you felt like the $1,000 was, too much.
Yeah, to me, the big thing, and what I've learned a lot from successful people, is they really value their time. And time is just one thing that you can't get back.
That's true.
And it really is worth it to spend a little bit of money to have a lot more time in return, because all this time that you spend going from venue to venue to venue or vendor to vendor to vendor, if you get with a planner, they can say, hey, what's your vision? Oh, I know of 3 venues that would fit your vision very well. I suggest we look at this, this, and this, and they're all within your budget, versus you setting up an appointment at a venue that you heard was nice, but come to find out, it's going to take up 80% of your budget. That may not work.
Correct. There's also another package that a lot of planners do offer. It's like a midway package where it's a step up from a day up, but a step down from a full. So that's worth investing into if you cannot afford a full. That way you sit down with your planner, they give you the 3 options like you suggested. They'll go, the extra mile to visit those places, and then you can lock that in, and then the couple can then take on planning from there, and then we'll step back in later. That way it's, we're not doing every single thing for you, but we're helping you with that bulk, so you don't have to worry about wasting all your money at one particular space.
Yeah, and that's a good word, because a lot of times people will say, oh, I gotta have this, I gotta have that, I gotta have that, but then they don't realize that having this one thing may cause the rest of their items or vendors or whatever to be diminished a little bit.
Yes.
And you just, that's the whole thing. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, let's talk about some of the pitfalls that you typically see couples go into. What are some of the things that people come to you and I don't want to say mistakes they made, but things that they just may not foresee or think about when going into the wedding planning process?
Spending all their money on decor before they purchase or invest in any other vendor. They just have a venue and decor. They don't have a photographer. They don't have makeup. They don't have hair. They don't have anything. Because they have a vision they want to achieve, and they met with just 2 people and they achieved them, but they didn't realize all the small things that they have to do. They're going to need transportation. They're going to need hair and makeup. They have to give gifts for their bridal party, things like that. They don't have it anymore.
Yeah, and it's a tough thing, because once you have the venue and maybe your decor, you think, oh, it's all downhill from here. But you got to have a good photographer. You have this vision of your day and you have this picture in your mind, but you want the pictures to look that good.
Exactly.
You got to have a good DJ. I mean, I've done events where the DJ wasn't that great, and it showed from the standpoint of the bridal party came in, and now for the first time as husband and wife, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And then there was silence for 2 minutes while the DJ looked for the song, or the equipment didn't work, or the sound system just wasn't up to par. A lot of times it's easy to say, we've got a $25,000 budget, which is the national average. But then if you spend 17 or 18 or 20 at the venue, you still have to get a dress, a photographer, DJ, makeup artist, limo. I mean, there's so many other things. I mean, where are you going to get ready before the wedding? Are you going to get a hotel? Tuxedo. There's so many different things.
They don't think about room blocks for their guests either. Things like that. Sometimes they're complimentary and sometimes they're not. But sometimes they don't think about that. But let's touch back on the DJ. That is really important, because they set the tone for the entire night. And it's something that you have to invest your money into as well, because you just want to make sure you vet them. Anybody can say they're a DJ, but you just want to make sure they're a really, really good one.
Yeah, and that's an added benefit, because you having worked at different events and venues, not only have you seen some of these people in action, you've seen the behind the scenes. Yes. You've seen them set up. If a certain DJ or DJ company gets there 5 minutes and they're plugging in their speakers frantically, or if they get there an hour ahead of time and sound check everything and make sure everything's working properly. Yes. It's a big difference between, just getting the job done and doing a professional job.
Correct.
Lastly, for people out there that are, thinking about hiring a planner, what are some of the things that you feel like they should look for when going to hire a planner?
Can you what do you mean look to?
I mean, in terms of, is it a matter of when I go to meet with different planners, should I ask to see different events that they plan? Should I ask them how many events that they've done? What are some things that I should do if, I'm going to look at a couple different planners? Yes,
you definitely want to know how long they've been in business. If they're certified in any organizations, you want to make sure that they do a couple events a year. What type of events? Because every event is a little bit different. If they just specialize in, bar and bat mitzvahs or parties, it's a little bit different than doing a wedding. So that's a really good question. Try to get references. Go on their Wedding Wire account. See what different couples are saying about them. Those are the key things that you want to look into. Just because someone's referring you to that person, they may not be the best fit. So it's always good to, at least research, let's say maybe 4 max, because you don't want to do too many, because then you'll start comparing everyone to that one, everybody else.
Okay, perfect. I mean, I think we've kind of briefly gone over, what goes into, or rather the benefits of having a planner. And once again, I think it's something that everyone should look into. The events that I work, there's a big difference between the ones that have a planner and the ones that don't. The ones that do have a planner, everything goes so much more smoothly. There's someone there, saying, hey, we got to be ready in 20 minutes. You maybe should start putting your dress on. All these different things, and just putting out all the little fires that come up on a wedding day. Once again, I want to thank you for coming by.
Thank you.
And again, her website is...
It's www.tailormadeeventswithans.llc.com.
All right, and I'm Michael Wright, Michael Wright Photography. If you need a photographer for your event, make sure your photographer is right. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Be sure to check out both our websites, and thank you for coming.
Thanks.